Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Year of No Gear, episode 14. This week, my guest is Ruzz Evans of Ruzz's Guitar Blues Revue. Ruzz, how you doing, man? You good?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all right. You know, lockdown and all that. Well, I
Yeah,
say lockdown. It's easing now, but
yeah.
it's not too stressful now because things are starting to open. Have you been out and about? Have you been moving?
Only a little bit to see family.
That's all right. That's
Not much more than that, though. Yeah,
it's kind of still early days, isn't it? No one kind of wants to. Had any gigs booked
yeah.
yet? Has anyone come into the calendar?
No, not yet. I'm not chasing that just yet.
No.
I'm sitting back and watching for a little bit and see how things go before I start thinking about that.
Yeah, well, it's tough, isn't it? Because as much as we want to play shows again, we want to keep people safe. I don't want people coming to my
Yeah,
shows and then getting ill. So I
yeah,
completely
yeah.
understand that. Cool. Well, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate your time
No, thank
today.
you for having me.
Ah, it's great. It's awesome. So let's start off with the same question I give everybody because I'm a creature of habit. What's your relationship like with buying gear?
Um, it's changed quite a lot. So when I started out playing, I used to buy quite a lot of pedals and amps, searching for a particular sound. Uh, I would go through overdrive pedals, and I think I had a while back when I played in a rockabilly band. I had two Fender Frontman transistor amps because the drummer was so fucking loud. Excuse my French, but
No, it's
he was so
okay.
loud in it. Um, the just one of those amps was not cutting it, so I ended up getting two and linking them up, and had echo pedals and overdrive pedals and things like that. And now it's got to a point after, like, I don't know, 10 years of playing professionally, that it's now one amp, one guitar, one lead.
You're
And
quite
that's
often
right.
the only guitar player, right? Or do you play with other guitar players?
No, quite often I'm the only one, unless I'm jamming with people or I go out to the States and I'm working with some other friends out there and they've already got another guitar player in the band. But usually it's just me. So,
Mm. So you can kind of deal with yeah, and I've seen you live, and yeah, you're definitely not quiet. You're loud enough. Like
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
well, not in a way that you're too loud, but it's the right volume, I think, for a single. What is it you're playing through at the minute? What amp do
I've,
you?
I've got a Fender Supersonic 22 at the moment. I'm absolutely loving.
Mm.
I just go straight into that. It's got really nice clean channel, great reverb, and it's got a great drive channel. So it's got the two gains on it, so I can really work it to sound like I've cranked the clean channel.
Yeah. Do you
Like,
switch? Do you have a channel switcher, or do you just go into one channel and adjust it?
well, if I'm using the drive channel at a gig, I may just go back up to the amp if I'm playing a softer instrumental and change it to the clean channel. But if I get a chance to drive the clean channel, I don't touch anything. I drive it and then turn the guitar down
I
to
think
clean it up.
that seems to be the best way for a lot of people that kind of go straight in and make it just work for you. Especially
Yeah,
if you I always say this to people as well, like don't start with the volume on 10. I know so many
yeah,
people who are just like, I don't use volume and tone controls, and no, like roll it back, turn the amp
yeah.
up more, and then use the
Yeah.
volume and tone to
Well,
manipulate the amp.
yeah, I mean, that's something that one of my absolute favourite blues guitarists does, Jimmy Vaughan. He cranks his amps up and then turns his guitar down, and that's how he finds his tone.
Mm.
He doesn't use pedals other than the tremolo pedal, and he just goes straight into the amp, like we said, crank them, turn the guitar down. So you kind of find that sweet spot between not too driven, but not too clean and sharp.
Mm. Well, the amp's more open, right, as well, so it gives
Yeah,
more of a kind of a breathing. It feels like the amp's breathing, for lack of a better term.
yeah,
It
yeah,
it it feels less compressed and less caught up when you roll
yeah,
it back.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely, yeah.
absolutely. I did want to talk to you a little bit. So you're a Gretsch endorsed artist, which is very, very cool. You played. How long have you been playing Gretsch guitars for?
Oh, almost as long as I've been playing guitar. So I've been playing about 13 years, and I think I got my first Gretsch maybe 11 years ago.
Okay.
It's electromatic, but I loved it, and then kind of been hooked ever since.
So
I'd love the
how did the deal come about? Did you just play somewhere where someone who worked for Gretsch was about, or did you?
sort of, yeah. So there was now a friend of mine, but a guitar hero of mine from Canada called Paul Bagat. I was playing, like I said, I was playing in this rockabilly band around Bristol, and we were going out to Europe a couple of times and going around the UK. And there's somebody on YouTube that had seen all of our videos and wanted to book us in Holland. And then it turned out that he was good friends with Paul Bagat from Canada and would book them at the same bar he was trying to get us in. And after talking for a while, he kind of put across the suggestion that maybe we should put on a gig with both bands. I was like, if you can make it work, definitely, I'm there. And they put on the street party and had both of us and a couple of other bands playing it. And Paul's a Gretsch endorsed artist as well. So to me, it was to see him live and to kind of have that connection in person was amazing. I got to jam with him and meet him and become friends with him. And he put my name into Gretsch. And I think they must have been watching me for a few years, because nothing came from it for maybe 4 years. And I was going through other bands, and I hadn't actually started my own band at that point. And it wasn't until about 2016, once I'd been doing my own project for 2 years, that I reached out to them again and kind of said, "Oh, don't know if you remember my name, but Paul Bagat mentioned me to you, and would you be interested in a possible endorsement?" And they emailed back within a week. They emailed back within a couple of days saying they were definitely interested and wanted a phone call. Had the phone call, and it was all confirmed and official within a week of me emailing them.
So
quite a surreal moment.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that would be a weird. I can't even imagine that, like a company liking how I play that much that they would support me. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was always the end goal for me was always a Gretsch endorsement with my career. So I've never been one of those people that wants to be rich and famous playing music, or they want to be there. So to me, it's like I want to have my own band, make my own music, and if I can get endorsed by Gretsch at the end of, or kind of further down the line in my career, perfect. I'll be happy with that. And it came in much sooner than I was expecting.
Well, that's super
so
cool.
I had to sit there and rethink, well, what are my priorities now?
Yeah. Well, so I want to ask about that endorsement thing, because I think people get a bit confused about endorsements and how exactly they work. So I'm gonna just be a bit brazen here and go, you don't get free guitars sent from Gretsch every quarter or something to test. That's not the way it works.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish.
So what, going into the endorsement, what's the benefit? Obviously the benefit for you is having Gretsch's name there under what you do. It's
kind of like a seal of approval.
Yeah, it's a calling card, especially in the rockabilly field where Gretsch guitars are kind of king.
Yeah.
So is that the only benefit? I'm guessing as well you're involved with them in some other stuff. And
yeah, so as well as the kind of seal of approval, as I say, I get artists kind of cost prices on any gear under the Fender umbrella, because they're distributed by Fender. Anything under that umbrella, so the amp comes under it, the Gretsch guitars, and then when I go out to the States, they loan me any gear I need for as long as I need for free.
Great.
So that opened up America for me. So that's how I managed to get out there. Is that I had friends out there that wanted me to come over and play, but I could never work it kind of gear wise and time and things like that. And as soon as the Gretsch endorsement came in and they said that they can loan me the gear that I would need anywhere that I would need it, I thought, well, now's the time to go and open up that market.
Go and do it, yeah.
And it's opened up so much.
That's great. Well, that's so that's a cool way to know how endorsements kind of work and stuff. It's more on a, like you said, an endorsement, loaners and things like that can literally help you open up new areas.
It's kind of like it's kind of like a support from the company. It's that they acknowledge what you do. They acknowledge you as a brand ambassador almost, and they want to help you in any way possible. And it benefits them as well, obviously. But yeah, just the help that they've given me over the last 4 years coming up to now, it's just been incredible.
Sure.
And then stuff like going out to the NAMM show, they pay for that. Not the cost to fly there, but they pay for all the passes. The people I've met just from that alone has been incredible. So
So NAMM's actually a perfect place to go with it. So when your gear spending is on high alert or anything like that, when you're getting particularly into it, did you find it was worse with guitar, amps, pedals, a combination of the above? Like, do you have one area that you particularly have a bit of a
when I was buying it was more amps and pedals that I was looking at. I was quite happy with the guitars I had at the time, and I wanted a professional range Gretsch, but couldn't afford one, so that kept that at bay. Just the fact of not having the money for it kept that one. But if I had a good run of gigs or something like that, I'd be going into certain music stores in Bristol and trying out other pedals and trying out other amps, and it was always for me. It was always I was in search of a particular sound.
And that
rather
sound,
than
so that sound, what I mean, as a rockabilly artist, I guess we can have a bit of a mental picture. But some of the people whose sounds you admire, what?
Sort of, yeah. I don't consider myself solely a rockabilly player anyway. It's kind of I'm a blues player that plays rockabilly and swing and all that. It's a roots player, I guess I would say. But it's that slightly driven Gretsch sound. It's that kind of very clear, full, chimey Gretsch sound in a slightly driven Fender amp is what I love.
Sure.
And that's what I was hunting down beforehand, before I was able to really get the gear that would do that justice. But for me, that's what it is. It's that, like I say, Gretsch guitar into a Fender amp, cranked.
Yeah. So I guess artists that would be similar. I know you're a big Brian Setzer fan.
Oh yeah, Brian Setzer, Jimmy Vaughan, Wilco Johnson. They're the top three kind of big influences on me. Like I said, Paul Bagat from Canada.
Cliff Gallup.
Cliff Gallup, definitely.
Yeah.
I just love so much. All the solos he was doing on those Gene Vincent records. It's just, as soon as I heard those, that was one of those moments where you kind of sit down and go, I have to have that. Don't care how long it takes, I have to have that lick.
To have it down.
Yeah, definitely. But it's all those kind of guys. It's, like I said, the kind of guys that would just plug straight into an amp and go for it.
Yeah. So with your you're saying now that your gear buying isn't nearly as bad as it was a few years ago. What do you think it was that helped you in your mind to go from really looking into all of the stuff to kind of moving away from it and playing more? What was your brain kind of doing? What kind of thoughts did you come up with to move you away from the gear and back to the playing?
Well, it's a few things. So there was the kind of music I'm playing and writing kind of dictates it to a degree. I mean, there's definitely room for pedals and different amps and stuff like within blues and rockabilly and stuff. I mean, just echo alone for rockabilly, that you can go crazy with getting proper tape echoes, or you can get certain different echo pedals. And
I'm intrigued. Have you ever used an actual tape echo on a gig?
No, I haven't. No, I wish I could have, but I never had the chance. But then I've heard mixed stories at times, so
I mean, someone I know who really pulled it off, local blues. Do you know Rob Crooks?
I know the name, yeah.
So Rob's a local guitar player, but a couple of the gigs I've done with him, there's just something very cool about it. But he used to use, I think it was a Blues Junior, and he had a WEM.
Okay.
I think it was a WEM copycat tape delay, and he'd plug straight into it and then go into the amp. And do you know what? For as much I hear about them being unreliable and they break, what a sound. It was just an Epiphone Casino straight into that, into this Blues Junior, and it just, every time it sounds huge. So I get it, there is totally an appeal, but I was wondering if you'd ever experienced it yourself.
Not yet, no. But it's, like I said, it's the unpredictability of it. It sounds fantastic, but if it breaks, kind of, if that's what you're relying on, you're kind of stuck.
It's a big part of your tone as well, because it's loading the amp.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I totally understand that.
Yeah. So, I mean, but for me, my kind of gear journey is kind of minimizing what I'm using and stuff. Like I said, it started with me writing my own music and going for that particular sound, but then it was recording music. I don't know if you know Matt Sampson from Pink Bonk.
I do know Matt. Yeah.
He's a big influence in this because I started recording with him and Joe Allen. Do you know Joe Allen?
I don't, but I know. So I guess you recorded at Pink Bonk, right, with Matt?
Yeah. So the first CD I did there was just a demo we did in a day, and I took all the stuff I had and the pedals and that, and it did the job for what we wanted. And then the next album that came along, we kind of condensed it down and I was still using a couple of pedals. And then the third studio album I did with Matt, we went in and he went, "We're not doing pedals, going straight into this amp." He brought out an old Fender Deluxe Reverb. It was like an old 60s one. And he cranked it up to about 5, 6. And I just went, "Oh, there it is."
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, so there was that kind of that influence. And then live as well with Joe Allen, he was constantly pushing at me to get rid of the pedals, just go straight into the amp. And I was very reluctant. I kind of got very reliant and comfortable with the pedal setup that I had for live shows. And like I said, I kept holding off. I'll try it next time. No, this isn't the gig for trying. I'll try it next time. And then one day I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And I loved it. It felt different. I felt like I was fighting the guitar a little bit more, but that's only because of how I had everything set up previously. It was almost making it too easy at times. So there was a nice little bit of fight, which I now really like. I like the guitar to fight back a little bit, so I feel like I'm working for my money almost.
No, but that's great. And how cool it is that your peers were trying to edge you towards doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I used to have a Zoom G2 pedal, multi-effects pedal that I was using for echo and reverb, and I was playing. I still got it, but I was playing through an old Sound City Concord amp.
Right.
And the reverb was broken on it, so I was using a reverb on the G2. I had some compression on it because I was using an Electromatic, and the pickups weren't quite powerful enough, and so I was using compression and. I had a bit of overdrive on that at one point, and then some reverb and echo. And it did the job for a few years, but it was getting to a point where Joe was saying, "You've got a Gretsch Falcon, and you're putting it in between that and a Fender Blues Deluxe. In between them two, you've got a Zoom G2 pedal that's like 30 quid. So get rid of it." And I was like, "Oh no, but I'm used to it. I've been playing with this for like 8 years or whatever it was at that point." And I just kept fighting him until one day I just went, "Yeah, all right then, let's give it a go." At a gig that didn't really matter, it's just a little pub gig, so nobody would have noticed, luckily. But yeah, I haven't looked back since.
Well, that's good. I think that's sometimes the way it goes. You do need to. I had a similar experience. So I found it. Do you use a tuner? I'm guessing.
I've got a clip-on tuner. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now.
Yes.
Because I was recording with Matt and Joe, and they were talking about some of the foot pedal tuners that sometimes some of them could alter your tone, and they can do weird stuff if you're not careful. And I was like, I'm not risking this.
Yeah, sure, I get that. Yeah, the Boss ones have a buffer in it that can change the sound and stuff. So I did a similar thing. I first discovered the amp thing. So I've used AC30s for years and years and years and years. Like that was my first good amp was an AC30, and when I was playing lead in bands, I really always used pedals. I always had a pedal board and stuff, and then I got shoved into being a singer and fronting, and then when you're up there, you find that all the switching, all of the other stuff, it's just a pain. So one day I just decided to do exactly what you did. I plugged into a tuner, I went back to my AC30, I took a Les Paul Junior with me, and I just plugged that into the amp, and it's just this weird relationship now where I almost weirdly with that amp, I don't like putting pedals in front of it. It's just something, but that's because I'm so used to using the tone control and making it fit, and it really is like, if you can, especially doing it on a gig as well, because once that first number kicks in, you're in it. There's no going back. You can't decide, can you? You can't change your mind.
Definitely. I think, I mean, talking gear, the only pedal I would probably go for nowadays would be a tremolo. I don't have a tremolo pedal.
Right.
But that's not something that I would kick on and off mid-song. That would be something left on for it's usually if I'm doing a song called Scratch My Back, which is an old blues song. Jimmy Vaughan used to do it with tremolo, and everyone else I've heard does it with a tremolo pedal, and it sounds fantastic. That's the only pedal I would ever, I think now, put kind of in between the chain of guitar to amp. and it would be left on for the whole song. I wouldn't go kicking. That was one of the things as well that was after a while it was getting me. Is I had to keep remembering
To turn it off.
Turn it off, or you got to kick the zoom up to whatever it was, like A3 settings, so that you've got it set for this song, and back down to A1 for this, and it was just getting too much to think about.
Sure.
Especially like you said, once I'm fronting my own band and singing and stuff like that, and I got to think, oh god, I got to remember at the end of the song to change it because now I'm going into such and such song. Or
would you not have a tremolo setting on your amp? I'm guessing that Supersonic doesn't have.
No, not on the amp, unfortunately.
Okay.
If it did, I would use it a lot, but unfortunately it doesn't. So
that's all right though. I quite admire the fact that you go, well, it's not there, so I just won't use it. I think that is a thing. We had an interview a couple of weeks ago with do you know Benny J Hayes, local.
I think I recognise the name. Yeah,
we came to see you play up at in Bedminster, but he's exactly the same for a live performance. He in the studio everything has its place, but if he puts stuff on the floor and it gets in the way, or he has to remember to turn stuff on and off, if it's not an always on thing, he's exactly the same. He'd rather not have it on the floor. He'd rather get by on the gig without it, which is quite interesting because I know so many people who are the other way. They don't want to be without their pedals on the floor. It makes them feel very uncomfortable,
Right.
So I love that. I love that mentality. I think it's really. So what's your count at now? Are you? So I'm guessing really you must. Like one guitar, one amp? Is that literally?
No. I've still got a few guitars that I've kind of collected as I've been kind of growing up from teenage years, starting to learn to play, and we've kind of stopped at the Falcon now.
Yeah.
And then stopped at the Supersonic. I've only got two amps. I got the old Sound City because it was my dad's, and he had it for years. I think he might have got it before I was born, and then kind of gifted it to me one birthday, and I played that for years and years and years, and then retired it when I got the Supersonic. I just needed something more modern and reliable.
Sure.
But yeah, just the two amps, and I only really use the Falcon now. I've got a Telecaster that if there's an issue with the Falcon, then I'll use the Telecaster.
Right.
And I've got a Strat, but I hardly use it. It's kind of more of a just in case I need it. There might be something that down the line that needs like a really good surf tone or something, and the Strat might do it perfectly well.
Yeah.
But at the moment, the Falcon's doing everything. The Falcon into that Fender is doing everything. So
have you never felt that pull to kind of just one day just have a big clear out and just go, right, everyone out the door, just keeping this amp and this guitar?
All the stuff is it's more sentimental value to them now. So I've got like some hollow bodies that I bought myself when I was 15. And then I got another one as a Christmas present not long after, and then I got a couple of the Gretches that I either worked hard to buy myself or they were gifted to me, so it's kind of, there's a lot more sentimental value behind the ones I've got. They weren't necessarily like I bought it because I wanted a Strat,
sure, and
now I don't want the Strat anymore, I'll get rid of it. There's a lot more behind them for me.
Yeah, I think sentiment's a big one, isn't it? With buying and selling equipment. I've got, I mean, everything I've got at the moment gets used, but there are a couple of odd things that every now and again you just keep. Even so, I was having a chat about this similarly with somebody the other day. I love Les Paul Juniors. They're like my favorite guitar ever. I just think they're so cool. And a question I quite often ask some guests is, if you could trade everything for like everything you have for one dream rig, and I'll pose this to you in a minute, but if you could trade everything that you had for one dream rig, vintage guitars and things like that, like all on the table, what would you do? And I'm still very much in the like, if I could find a double cut red Junior and a great old AC30, maybe I would, but they'd have to be like that level of great. And I've had the opportunity to, look at some old Juniors, and the problem is every time it comes to shifting to something else, I've got it here actually. This one.
Oh, cool! Yeah, nice.
Every time I pick this up, this has done so many gigs that it kind of doesn't matter that it may not be the best quality Junior ever. it's
Yeah.
kind of forever stuck here because it's done the work. It's put itself in
Yeah.
place, and I think that's the thing. You know, like, would you trade something that's, you know, it works and has done the work for something that's retroactively better? Because I've seen that go wrong for a couple of people. You
Yeah.
know, where
Yeah.
they've sold their favorite guitar, and then it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I've lost the
Yeah.
kind of memory. But what
Yeah.
about yourself? If you could, I mean, you've probably, I guess you might already have your dream rig, but if you could, say, if you could get an
Yeah.
old Gretsch or something like that and an old amp, would you?
Probably not. I think I've got it.
You're
I think
happy?
I've got my. I'm more than happy. The only thing that myself and my partner Andrea keep talking about is a Gretsch custom shop model, and just how would, like, what would we have for that?
Mm.
But and there's no answer to that, so don't ask me yet, because we keep changing. NAM doesn't help. Every time we go back to NAM, there's more options. Like, oh no,
Yeah.
but no, I think I've got my dream rig. I mean, I don't think about. There's nothing lacking from it that makes me think, oh, I wish I had such and such, because this amp doesn't have that, or this guitar doesn't quite do that.
Mm.
It's doing everything that I need. So
There's the live
I think
concept as well, isn't there? Like, if you've done shows and you know every time you turn up to the show, that guitar and that amp always work for you and they don't break.
Yeah.
That's massive. Like, that's a
Yeah.
huge thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. And especially the kind of shows that I do with, especially if there's a lot of improvisation going on, or like jamming amongst the bands, it's nice to have a guitar and amp that you know you can rely on no matter what happens throughout the night. You can try out some new stuff, and you know it's not going to bail on you or really fight you back. It's that kind of safety blanket that I quite like.
Sure.
So, like I said, turning up with a Falcon, plugging it into that supersonic, and I know tonight should be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's totally fair enough. If it works for you, it works for you. Like, is that it behind you there? Is that the?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Very nice.
So, I don't know how much it's going to be shown on the camera, but
Oh yeah, I love the double
yeah.
cuts. I think I prefer the double cuts.
So do I. Yeah.
To the singles.
I think there's slight mixed feelings in some of the Gretsch groups. I mean, like you said before, Gretsch is very well known for the rockabilly genre. There are many other genres that are being played on it, and so I do a lot of blues and stuff on them. But within a lot of the groups, there's a lot of rockabilly players that they just want that orange single cutaway 6120.
The sets a thing.
And then the sets fit, it's mainly the Eddie Cochran thing. Everyone wants that P90 in the neck, and the Dynasonic in the bridge, and it's got to be the orange single cut, fixed arm Bigsby, and that's great. And all, it's not quite for me personally, but everyone seems to love that. And then a double cutaway like that comes along, and sometimes it splits opinion.
Sure, I don't know.
I love it.
I love it. I think it looks great.
I love it.
The first Gretsch I ever got to play was an Electromatic. It was an orange double cut.
Oh, nice.
And it was, I borrowed it. I didn't buy it, but I used it to record one of my first CDs. And they are cool. Not to ignite anybody's gas with it, but they just have a tone all to themselves.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I myself, I'm not really a massive fan of hollow bodies. I find I don't really get on with the size of them. But even some of the smaller sized ones, I've found they do it more. Has yours got the tone switch on it as well, or is it just a?
No, it's just a pickup selector,
right.
And then I've got a tone knob on there. I do love the tone switch though.
I love that. That thing is great. I don't know why. Yeah. We were having a chat about this amongst some friends the other day, because I think correct me if I'm wrong, but Gretsch describe it as it's like, oh, it's just like preset areas on a tone control.
Yeah.
But when I've heard it in person, I don't think it does that. I feel like it adds something in. Like there's some kind of mid change.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, I know I heard the story that it was the Chet Atkins kind of invention, that he wanted a switch that he could quickly go to certain tone options that he was trying to find with a tone control, and he wanted to go to it quickly without having to search whilst he's playing live.
Sure.
So he came up with that idea, and I absolutely love it. Yeah. I've tried a couple in some stores and tried some at NAMM, and it's great for that BB King type thing. You can just knock that tone back slightly, and instantly it's BB
That
King.
switch, honestly, it turns.
Yeah,
I described it as like it almost turns that neck filtertron into like a PAF sounding
yeah,
humbucker
yeah,
thing. It's
yeah,
such a cool mod.
yeah. I've heard some people get some killer jazz tones out of them using that switch.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, it's just I love it. And talk about something that splits opinion as well. I mean, that really does split opinion. That tone switch. There's so many people that don't like it.
Mm.
Even in the Gretsch groups, they just don't like it for some reason.
Does
And then
it
there's
does it ever
people like us.
does it ever get in that group? Does it get heavy into like modding of it and stuff? Is there a big mod ideal like shot behind Gretsch guitars? Is because I know that can
There
catch
was,
some people on like Fenders and things. Is just the mods you can do are endless.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people kind of changing a lot of the pots constantly, or changing the bridges. There's loads of different bridges that you can put on. There's the pickups alone as well. There's so many different pickups that within the Gretsch community, kind of like TV Jones have almost a monopoly on them. You could have like the TV classics, or there's the Supertrons, or the Magnumtrons, or there's so many of them. They all sound fantastic. But when it comes to the mud switch, nobody's really talking about modding it. It's always you either like it or you poke it through the guitar body and you ignore it,
Right.
because that's what Setzer did. So everybody copies it. If they don't like it, they unscrew it and push it in the guitar, so it's out of their way. But yeah, that's the only thing I've never really seen anybody say, "Oh, I changed the switch to this, and it gives me this kind of tone. It's not quite as muddy, or it's not quite as such and such." Everyone, they always do it about the tuners, like I said, the pickups, the
So
pots.
is yours completely stock? Have you changed anything
It
over,
is
or
not touched anything.
even the
Other
same
than the
pickups?
same pickups that came
Incredible.
with it. The only thing that's changed is the bridge, because I wore the saddle down. The low E and the A string saddles, I just wore them right down to the point where they were starting to rattle on the actual base of the bridge,
Right.
like the metal part, not the actual wood base. But so I had to send it for a setup this time last year actually, and the guys at Fender over in London, they received the guitar, and I went to pick it up, and they said, instead of having to hand over ID, I'd already described enough that was wrong with the guitar that they knew it was exactly that I was the owner of it, because they said, we've never seen a guitar this new come in this battered.
Right.
They said, we've never seen a bridge like this. What the hell have you done to this bridge? And
Nice.
I was like, just played it.
Yeah. But that's it. If
yeah,
it's your thing, if that's the way you play it and that's the way you use it,
yeah,
then that's totally
yeah.
fair enough. So I
Makes
just
it
want to
work.
go. I want to go back on the playing just a little bit. So
Yeah.
your gear. So you'd say probably you're kind of privileged in that your gear stuff kind of stopped getting in the way of your playing. So you've been kind of focused on your writing and your playing and stuff.
Yeah.
How do you stay motivated with your playing? Do you find you have bad days with it and
Yeah.
you kind of go, you kind of go in other directions? How do you get yourself back when you're having a bad day?
Well, it's not necessarily that I ever go in different directions. I'm still heading in the same kind of genre based direction. I love all that kind of Americana. I tend to call what I do now Americana, because it's blues,
It's the
soul,
umbrella.
swing. It's just the umbrella term now. Because I mean, I'm too rock and roll for the blues scene and too blues for the rock and roll scene, and I'm too blues and swing and stuff for the Americana scene, because they just want country apparently. So
Yeah. Have you?
I just
What about jazz? Do you ever get caught in the? Because what you do is quite jazzy.
I do a bit. I talk to my sax player quite a lot about this, because we write together, and we're writing together at the moment. And there's a fine line with the kind of music that I'm doing, where you can put jazz in. There's certain things you can put into it, but if you go too far down, it loses the power or the intensity behind the kind of track you're trying to write. So
because
if it's a
every time
rockabilly,
I hear you play and I think about the style you're doing and I listen to it, honestly, my first thought is it's jazz blues.
yes,
It's all
yeah,
rockabilly is. It's
it
slightly
is.
up tempo jazz blues, because you're
It's
playing over changes, you're targeting notes.
yeah,
Like it's not just aimless pentatonic, but
yeah,
and there's slightly different progressions, but you're not. There's something so not jazz about it at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah. So this is the fine line I try and tread. I mean, rockabilly. I always think of it kind of a mix of country, jazz, and blues. So it's a lot of the kind of hillbilly guys back in the day, or jazz guys. They came together and they were just session players. And I know that I heard stories that Cliff Gallup was a jazz player that was just having a laugh when he put some of those like iconic solos on some of those Gene Vincent tracks. He was just thinking, well, what can I fit in here? Well, I'll put this jazz line in. This works would be funny, and it's become some of the most iconic rockabilly playing. So that's kind of where I try and think of it. There's a fine line between trying to be too clever with it, and you lose that, especially in rockabilly or blues stuff, that intensity of the style or the song you're playing. It's a difficult subject. Like I said, myself and my sax player discussed this a lot. And with him, he plays in big bands a lot, and I absolutely love big band music and try and incorporate that into what I do. So I'm mixing the blues and rockabilly kind of 3-piece or 4-piece if you add a piano with the big band kind of horn styles. And again, there's a fine line. If you go too far with it, it either sounds a mess, or you just sound like you're trying to be too clever for your own good.
So when you're playing, like I said, sorry, I cut you off from your answer.
No,
you were trying to give
no.
me my last one. But yeah, when you're having a bad day with your practice and stuff, how do you bring yourself back to sitting down and practicing again? Because I think commonly a lot of people will start practicing the guitar, hit a roadblock, and then they'll tend to go to the gear area after that. Like, I've lost count of the amount of times where I've been practicing, I've hit a rut, and then I've been looking at new guitars or amps or pedals for 7 days when I should have got myself back to the guitar. I'm interested at how you do the same for yourself, how you pull yourself back in.
YouTube, pretty
Nice.
much. Especially if I'm writing something. So at the moment, I'm kind of in the process of writing a surf instrumental, and when I was starting to try and work out the main riff, I was getting completely stuck. So I went on YouTube and stuck some Dick Dale on, and instantly, there we go. Right, I've got it. I know it, and it helped me. So I tend to do that if I'm trying to practice something, or I'm trying to write something, it's not quite coming to me, or I feel like I'm hitting a brick wall, and I'm not getting any fresh ideas. I feel like I'm just chucking out the same rubbish that everybody is constantly doing, or that I've already done. I don't want to ever chuck something out that people go, you've already done that in such and such. Why are you redoing that again? I walk away, or I sit on YouTube and just, depending on whatever genre it is or whatever I'm feeling, I might put on some big band music or some Setzer, or like I said, some Dick Dale, and I immerse myself in that genre and that sound, and then that helps me to push through and kind of finish what I was trying to either write or practice or learn. Or
Nice. That's okay. So YouTube's your way out. I like that.
Yeah, I go back to where the influences have come from, and I reevaluate what I'm trying to do with it, rather than sitting there for hours going, I can't do this. Nothing's coming to me, and I get angry, and there's no. Whereas if I just go, I'm going to walk away, and I'm going to sit on my phone and watch some YouTube videos, and then at some point I go, oh, I like that. Right, what was that? What did they do there? Then how can I start morphing that into something a bit more original for me?
Have you ever had a time where you've really not wanted to play the guitar? Have you ever had a time where you've just gotten to a point in your life where you've just gone, I'm not in the mood to work with it right now? Or has it always been you just do it, it's just your thing?
Not professionally, but at home there are some days where I just go, I don't feel like picking it up today. Especially if I've been, like I said, writing for a few days straight, or I've been working on stuff. Maybe a day I go, no, not today. I need a break.
Yeah. I think it's important. I think that's you can easily burn yourself into the ground. I find it's really interesting with professionals, because it's our job, right? And we love it, and we love doing it. It quite funnily enough, it's I think this pandemic's really kind of shown the slight futility of how music kind of works, because we had that whole thing where people weren't, we weren't gigging, people weren't being paid, and yet people are still listening to Spotify, and Spotify aren't paying artists, enough money and stuff. But the problem you get is we love it. We love doing it so much that I don't know, is there, because people was like, I guess the common thing is people go, well, we should have a strike or something, no music or nothing for people. But the problem you've got to get over then is the musicians, because you have to remember the musicians love it, love doing it as much as the people love listening to it. So it'll never truly stop. But I think I'm kind of sailing away from my point a little bit now. But what I guess what I'm trying to get to is sometimes when you just have those days where you just go, oh, I don't want to go near it, or I don't want to do it. I've had moments where I've thought about quitting, and I think a lot of people go back into the gear cycle, and then they come back again. So I find it really interesting that you have never just not had a moment where you've gone, I can't do it. Like, you always come back to it, and you're always
I mean, I definitely have times where I feel slightly disheartened that if I'm really pushing at something, I just don't feel like it's either falling on deaf ears, or it's not quite. I work really hard on something and I put it out, and kind of like hardly anybody reacts to that one day, and I go, oh, right, I'm just going to ignore that for today, and then I'll come back tomorrow and kind of rethink it and say, right, how can I rethink the marketing or whatever I've done here, and then I might put something else out, and more people react to that, and then they find what I did before and they react to that, and it's like it's the unpredictability of this business that gets me. It's one of the things that I've always had an issue with kind of the music business, is that people try and put across that there's a formula that works and you have to follow it and stuff, and that's great if you're doing a certain thing. But if you're doing your own thing and it's not, you're not catering for a scene or something like that, there is no rules that you cannot follow one rule that say, oh, well, this is what this PR guy has said for such and such, so I must do that, because that may not work for what I do. I may have to take ideas from that and ideas from here and ideas from there and try and work out my own way. So that's one of the things that does get me down, is the business side of it.
Yeah, but you keep going back to it though, and it's sometimes stuff like that. It's a right time, right place thing.
Yes.
Part of the reason I even do this podcast right now is because I enjoy it, because I enjoy talking to people like yourself. I enjoy people, and you kind of have to. And I guess it's the same thing for you. As long as you enjoy it, it doesn't matter when people find it. You need a certain amount of people to find it, because you need to grow. But if you can sustain it, then that's with your enjoyment. I mean, not financially necessarily, but then you've kind of won. I had a YouTube channel doing covers for a couple of years, and I'd same as you. I used to put stuff out, and it'd be like no views, no nothing, and I actually stopped doing it. And then about 2 years later, I had one video that had 100,000 views, and I was just like, it's just the time. I guess that just the time wasn't right,
I've had it. There's an album I did 3 years ago at Bing Bong. There was a country chicken picking style instrumental on there, and I put that out, and there was people. I played it at gigs, and people loved it, and there was some people downloading it on iTunes, but it wasn't really being picked up loads. And then within the last year, I was on the Apple Artist page, and it seemed to be that one track was being downloaded and listened to constantly in Japan, in all these other places I've never pitched it to. It's like I'm getting all these plays and stuff from Japan. It's like, whoa, okay then, I'll go with that. That's fine. But just didn't expect it. No.
It's crazy how it works. I really love how like gear hasn't pulled you away from the love of it and things like that. You've managed to stay on top of it and find your tone and things like that. Have you ever found a gig you've done? I mean, you do only your own stuff, right? Do you play for other artists?
Every now and then I'll do some stuff for other people if they want me to.
Do you ever find like the Gretsch sound isn't right for other stuff you do, or do you always it just work?
I've not found it yet. The majority of the time, people are kind of asking me to join them because it's me, it's my sound. They've seen me and they go, "Oh, come and sit in with us," or "Are you free for this gig?" So they already know what I do.
Yeah.
I don't I don't tend to do any like function gigs or anything like that. It's usually blues bands or rockabilly band or something like that. So they already know
What you do.
me from me.
But
So
what a cool reason to get hired though. That's great. Yeah, that must make you feel
yeah,
great.
no, it does. I mean, it's I haven't done any for a little while. Not just because of the lockdown, but there was a few years back. There was a few rockabilly bands that were asking me to deck with them or fill in for a few months until they got another guitarist or something like that. And they asked me because I played in other rockabilly bands that they'd seen or other blues bands that they'd seen. So that's pretty cool.
That's super, super cool. Man, this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on. I want to
No,
ask
thank you for
you.
having me on.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I want to ask you the last question that I ask anyone. So you have to recommend a rig for somebody in your sort of field, maybe doing some cover gigs, maybe doing some, some original stuff or whatever. One guitar, one amp,
Yeah.
one pedal. What do you recommend and why?
Well, the guitar and amp is an easy one. I mean, we spoke not long ago. You said you were going for a jet with two different
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pickups. I recommend the Filtertrons because they're just so versatile.
Sure.
For me, rig guitar and amp wise, it has to be what I've got. The Supersonic is so versatile. Just the drive channel alone, you can get any drive sound
They're
you want
really
out of
great.
it.
Do the Defender still make them like production line, or because I had a feeling they were
I think
discontinued for a
so, but
bit?
I think so. I don't know that it's as kind of heavily produced as some other ones. So I'm sure like the Blues Junior or the Blues Deluxe or stuff like amps like that, or the Deluxe Reverb reissue, there'll be a lot more in demand. Whereas the Supersonic, I mean, the one I've got, I tried it in a store in Bristol, kind of end of 2018, and loved it so much. Went to Fender, and they were out of stock, but they had one in the showroom, so I got an extra discount on it because it was in a showroom and had been played on anyway.
Right.
And I needed it quick, so they shipped that out to me, and it's touch wood, it's been fantastic ever since. So I think they are still in production, but I don't know that they're as readily available as some other kind of models.
I think that for me, that's the place that Fender are kind of missing out on a bit, because I understand the classic nature of like a Twin or a Deluxe Reverb or anything like that. Like they're classics for a reason. But I think the thing that makes the the Deluxe especially so versatile is it's kind of two amps in one, depending on where the volume sits. If you have it down low, it obviously does that classic Fender clean thing and it's beautiful. But when you turn it up, it's like it's almost in the Marshall territory a bit when it's cooking right. And I just think if Fender could come up with some sort of amp that was 2-channel, but it was essentially the same channel on both sides, but the dirt side had a master volume, which I'm quite lucky. I've got an amp that kind of does that. I've got an old Fender Concert from the 80s, which does exactly that. But it's
well,
all
the
like,
Supersonic does that
it's got a dirt channel and then a clean channel, and it's just such a missing. I guess yes, if using your volume controls and you've got a Deluxe and you can manipulate it, it's fine. But the problem I always find with it is, by the time you turn the volume up, sometimes that volume peak where it starts to break up is just that little bit too loud for your audience. Which is where the master volume just kind of comes into play.
That's one thing I have always loved about the Supersonic. I can use the clean channel in any bigger gigs or like a outside stage kind of that area. I can crank the clean channel and it's perfect. Then if I'm inside somewhere, I can use the drive channel because it has the two gains on there. So I can get, like I said before, I can get it to sound like I've driven the clean channel, and then it has a master volume on that channel. So, like I say, I can just turn the master down, but I've still got that slightly driven sound without it blasting everybody's eardrums.
That's they're getting quieter and quieter as years are going on. Totally. Okay, cool. So some sort of Gretsch guitar, some sort of.
But I mean, for me anyway, I've always found the Filtertrons are very versatile. I've done so many different gigs with it.
Yeah, what's your opinion on the Dynasonics, just out of interest?
I really like them. I love the twang from them, but I've never had a chance to really play them live properly for a full gig. So until I get that chance, that I can't give like a
glowing recommendation, as it were.
yeah, or something that's like really of my full opinion, because I haven't put them to the test properly. But every time I've tried them, they sound fantastic.
Cool. And
But I
then
would need to try them in some different scenarios.
yeah, I bet. Yeah. Okay, Gretsch guitar, um, with Filtertrons. You're saying yeah, supersonic, and then a pedal.
Yeah.
I know this is probably a bit of a challenge for you, but
Yeah. I really don't know pedal wise, to be honest. Like, because I haven't used pedals for so long, and that amp has always done everything for me. I've not looked at pedals, so
sure. No pedals is
I'm
totally
not
a
really
legit
sure.
option.
Yeah, whether I'll have to go that no pedals,
No
just
pedals.
yeah, a Filtertron filled guitar into a Fender Supersonic. You got all the drive options you're going to need. You got the channel changer that if you want to go between the clean and driven, you can do. It's got a fantastic sound and reverb on it, so
You
what more
kind of
could you
done, aren't
need?
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Ruzz, thank you so much for doing this, mate. I've really
Oh,
enjoyed
thank you.
our chat today. If people wanted to find your music or find what you're up to, where do they go?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. If they look up Ruzz Guitar, they can find me on all of those places, or Ruzz Evans for Facebook. And then I got a website, thebluesrevue.com, and it's review spelled Revue rather than
Revue,
the
like
actual reviewing.
like a
Right? Yeah,
magazine. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not reviewing blues music.
No,
It's
that's
it's
cool.
like the old soul kind of review show kind of idea,
Yeah, great. Are
where
you
they have
working on
the
any?
different artists come out.
Are you working on anything new in lockdown? Is there anything new possibly coming?
Yeah, I'm working on the instrumental album that's I'm hoping to release at the end of this year.
Amazing.
And it's kind of a mix of genres. Well, it's very me. It's blues, rockabilly, soul, blues. It's kind of BB King type soul blues. Got some surf going on, some big band stuff going on. Um, bit of mambo type big band stuff. So it's sort of a nice collection of styles.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's Ruzz Evans. So you can find him at Ruzz's Guitar Blues Revue. It's RVEUE. I can't even spell now. REVUE.
Oh, EVUE.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a great guitar player. Do check him out. Ruzz, thank you for being on, mate. We'll hopefully get
Thank
you
you.
back on for another one at a later date, because this has
Yeah,
been
definitely.
it's been great fun. Remember to subscribe on YouTube if you're watching us live on YouTube, because we do these interviews every single week. We do also have a SoundCloud page where the podcasts go up. So if you're in your car and you're driving around and you want to listen to these while you're on the go or on your lockdown walk or anything like that, you can check that out too. Perhaps you'd like to come on and have a chat if you've got some interesting ideas about gear acquisition or mental health as it results to that, or you're playing or anything like that. Do let us know and get in touch, and we'll have you on, and we'll see you next week for our next interview. Thank you very much.